Good morning and welcome to another edition of Our Town here on 94.9 and 99.1 The River. My name is Darren Swenson. Our Town, as always, brought to you by Decorah Bank and Trust. We have a four-guest program on the docket for this week. A little later on in the program, we will talk to Tim Cronin, the Decorah School Superintendent. Obviously, some big news happened this week regarding the potential for a new elementary school and where that will be located. We'll talk with Tim about that process. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and we'll talk about those issues with David Burrett. He is with the Decorah Police Department. Next week is Fire Prevention Week. We'll talk to Steve Vandenbrink. He is with the Decorah Fire Department. But first things first, coming up this weekend, starting tomorrow, is UFTA Fest. Yes, it's UFTA Fest in Spring Grove, and when things are happening in Spring Grove, we talked to Jana Elton from the City Clerks and Administrators Office. Jana will be our first guest this morning. This is Our Town. It's brought to you by Decorah Bank and Trust, and you're listening to it on 94.9 and 99.1 The River. This weekend in Spring Grove, it's UFTA Fest, and when things are happening in Spring Grove, we talk to Jana Elton from the City of Spring Grove, and a lot of fun planned for this weekend, Jana, and all sorts of activities, all sorts of fun, and it's just a nice little fall community gathering to kind of celebrate people coming together from the looks of things. Is that a fair assessment of UFTA Fest?
Yeah, good morning, Darren. Thank you for having me. It really is. UFTA Fest originally, I think, just started happening. I don't think there was really no organization behind it. I think a few years back, some businesses just decided to start having fun. And then it kind of just kept developing. And now the Spring Grove Chamber of Commerce kind of pulled it into an actual event. And so we're just making it bigger and better every year.
And some events are kind of already taking place. You can show off your artist ability by painting and decorating a gnome. That has to be a little bit of a fun thing.
I know, and I wanted to partake in that. I just haven't had time with it yet because I think there's a lot of creativity in town. So it'd be exciting to see what adults and kids come up with for some of these gnome paintings.
And I see looking at your schedule here, a full list of activities on Friday and Saturday and Sunday. Why don't we just run down some of the activities that are coming up on Friday?
Okay. Well, I don't have it all. The dates kind of broke out for me, but I have like a rundown for the weekend.
Oh, that's fair enough. You're the boss.
I'll just kind of roll through real quick because there's a ton going on, and there's probably a lot more going on that's not on my list here, but we have vendors in the park. So, I mean, come up and visit those guys. There's shopping, there's music, there's kids activities. We have a quilt and craft show, foods and drinks, a beanbag tournament, alumni events. We have the Point 10K, which is only 328 feet. The fitness center is putting on. We have a scarecrow contest. So if you drive through town, there's scarecrows that businesses are putting up. They're really cute. We have chalk art contest, barn dance, hot dish contest, Norwegian foods, DIY bulb painting, garage sales, Oli's ragtag oofta band. That sounds interesting.
It does.
School tours, gnome contest, library book sale, apple pies. We got it all. We got everything going on.
And especially you touched on the food end of things. It wouldn't be a small town gathering and a small town festival without the food end of things. The hot dish contest, that screams Minnesota, if you ask me.
It does. And I'm looking to partake in that. We all like to eat.
No doubt about it. And I'm imagine finding judges for that probably isn't going to be a hard thing to do either.
Well, I'm going to say right now, if anybody's ever listening, they could pick me to be a judge because I would love to do that.
So tell us about the UFTA Point 10K. That sounds interesting.
Well, it's only 328 feet, and it starts from the peanut gallery, or kind of the front door of the American Legion post, and it goes around the corner and ends at the distillery. And it's a race where you get the bib, you get the medals, you get a shirt, everything. And if you haven't signed up yet, they can still show up the day of and sign up for the event and join. They just don't get a shirt. But it's it's just a fun event. Go 328 feet. It's a race that anybody can do. Some people are dressing up in Halloween costumes.
Oh.
So some people might roller skate across the finish line or do cartwheels. I know we have people that are teams, they have teams together. So we have prizes for like the best team outfit, like the best mode that you cross the finish line if you're roller skating or whatever. I mean, we have a bunch of different prizes for people too. So
how much training do you have to do to fulfill your goal of running a 10K?
Pretty much zero training.
Oh, so everybody can do it.
Everybody can do it. And you also get a discount on a drink at the distillery when you're done. And I think along the way, along the 328 feet, there may be some hydration stations too, just in case you can't make the full 328 feet.
Well, temperature's going to be
maybe a little bit of alcohol involved there, but we'll see.
Well, I mean, that's all. Free t-shirts, free beverages. You can't go wrong with that end of things. And
yes,
anything else you folks need to know about UFTAfest this weekend? Anything that we haven't touched on to this point?
Well, it's a great weekend. Hopefully the weather is nice for everybody to come to Spring Grove. We have so many events going on everywhere. It's a great weekend. If you have nothing going on, come up, walk around town, check out the shops, the local stores. If you want to jump in on the race, we can sign you up and help you out. And it's just kind of a weekend just to get outside, have fun, and be with people.
Great part about small town festivals, and all the details available at a pretty simple to remember website, uftafest.com. Jana, anything else from the city perspective you want to pass on?
Oh, we're just excited. I mean, we're always excited when we have town festivals and people coming to join our town. And we're a great town. It's full of great people, and we welcome anybody. And if you come around, make sure everything you look at, you just say, oofta.
With the last name of Swenson, I can think I can manage that. But Jana, thanks for taking the time to tell us about UFTAfest coming up this weekend. I would tell you to have fun, but I think everybody in town already has that plans on participating this weekend.
Right. Yeah, we like to have a great time, Darren.
Jana Elton from the city of Spring Grove, UFTAfest this weekend. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and with us to talk about this issue is David Burrett. He is with the Decorah Police Department. And David, oftentimes we talk about these issues without clearly defining what these issues are. Define for us domestic violence.
So domestic violence is going to be any criminal act as far as like assault, whether it be physical, sexual, or even when it comes down to financial and digital abuse, as they call it. So it's going to be between persons that are married, separated, or divorced that share a child together. It's going to be adult family or household members currently residing together, or adult family or household members who reside together within the past year.
When does a disagreement turn into a criminal act?
When anything physical happens, whether pushing, shoving, as minor as that, when there's physical contact during that argument.
How prevalent of an issue is this, and is it a tough issue to get statistics on because perhaps it's happening more than what is being reported?
Yeah, there's always those cases where it's happening more than what we know about, or a lot of stuff happens between or behind closed doors. And actually, there are some stats out there that I was able to find, and it goes from national level to just within the state of Iowa. And this is just from phone calls coming in to the national hotline. So as of 2022, 93% of these calls were emotional and verbal, 63 were physical, 32 was financial, 18%, I'm sorry, those were all percentages, 18% digital, and 14 were sexual. And out of all those calls, there was right around 500,000 nationally. For the state of Iowa level, we don't have any data until since 2019. So in 2019, there was, in Iowa alone, was 1,300 calls. And nationally that year was about 360,000. And go ahead.
And I was just looking at it from a law enforcement perspective. Is there a particular difference or a challenge in dealing with domestic abuse from a law enforcement perspective, because you're dealing with the inner workings of a household as compared to perhaps a criminal act that happens out in public?
Yeah, because just trying to figure out the truth behind it. Because some local status, as I pulled those up too, and just as far as this year, there was 39 in the Winnebago County alone. We responded to 39 calls when only 18 of those resulted in an arrest. So sometimes those are just verbal arguments that maybe a neighbor or bystander calls in, and we have to go there and figure out whether a criminal act occurred. If it's just verbal argument that, hey, maybe we need to separate these parties for a while and let people cool down. And then sometimes they do evolve from there as far as we get more information, and we do provide those victims, even in verbal cases, with resources to try to help them get out of those situations.
Is there any way for law enforcement or social workers or anyone involved in dealing with this issue on a day in and day out basis to get on the front end of domestic abuse and make sure it doesn't happen? Because if you prevent it, it prevents the headaches for all of those that are affected by this. Is there any way to get out on the front end and try to prevent it as much as possible?
Yeah, there is. So there's they have a national hotline. There's also the Iowa form of the domestic abuse help hotline, and it doesn't always have to be the victim in the case that's reporting it. It can be a family or friend reporting, giving information, and actually, if you go to some of the websites or text, they got text numbers and stuff. If you go to some of the websites, they even clearly state on there, like, hey, make sure you delete your browser history, because there are those, situations where somebody could be under that much control. And even if you're reporting it for somebody, it asks, like, is this number a safe number to call to contact this person? So there is ways to allow people to try to help out a family member or friend that they may know, hey, maybe something's not going on at home that's safe for them to be there, but they might not talk about it. So there's always a way to try to get ahead of it to where we can avoid somebody being seriously injured or hurt during an altercation.
And how important is it to get that information out there that there is help for people that are dealing with these situations?
That's very important. It's the more they know about it, maybe some of these people don't know that there is the help out there. When I was talking about, this online stuff and phone numbers, and as far as like texting, like if they have a phone, I'll just give you the information. They can text Iowa Help to 20121, and that's a victim call center that can at least get them on the right track. And there's safety planning, there's advocacy groups for legal, individual, bilingual, child and teen. There's support group information. There's housing resources even too to help individuals in domestic violence situations be able to get out of that and on their own feet without having to worry as much.
And are we getting to a point as a society that we're doing a better job in letting people know there is help, that they can contact people for help? Because from the outside looking in, I'd imagine in some of these situations when this unfortunate circumstances are happening, a lot of it is don't tell anybody about it, or the situation is going to get worse. There's that fear there. Are we getting better as a society in letting people know there's help out there so they can get out of these situations that cause so much damage, stress, etc. to individuals?
No, I think so. I think, you know, like I said, when we take those calls, as far as, you know, a number of them were just maybe verbal, but, you know, there's people out there looking out for them, and they see there's more people saying, hey, this isn't right, I need to call it in. And that's just what it takes, you know. Even if you're a neighbor to somebody and you're arguing and yelling and screaming in the house and you don't see what's going on, doesn't mean, you know, hey, maybe I shouldn't call local law enforcement and have these people checked out. And just take those steps to keep people safe.
Related to this issue, from a law enforcement perspective, what else does the public need to know regarding domestic abuse and our efforts as a whole to prevent it from happening?
I'll kind of just touch base on with this, with the Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So actually, October 2nd will be the Day of Unity, which kind of marks the beginning of the month for the Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And then on October 19th of this year is considered Purple Thursday, and it will be, you know, wear purple however you can, help show your support and awareness of domestic violence. And there's phone numbers they can call as far as, you know, being aware of where to call. With in Iowa, 1-800-770-1650, or locally with Helping Services in Decorah here, it's 1-800-383-2988, and they also offer an online chat option as well.
All right, David, anything else we want to pass along as you got the forum on this specific issue, or anything else related to the Decorah Police Department?
I don't believe so. I think we covered a lot of information there, and if people want to have more questions, or, you know, maybe they have some questions they want answered specifically, they can always call in and talk to an officer or deputy.
All right, David, we appreciate you taking some time to talk about this very important issue. We thank you for and everyone with the Decorah Police Department for what you do to keep our community safe.
Thank you.
David Burrett from the Decorah Police Department. October is Domestic Abuse Awareness Month. Next week is Fire Prevention Week, and here to talk about Fire Prevention Week is Steve Vandenbrink. He is with the Decorah Fire Department. And Steve, just the way the calendar falls this year, you're going to start Fire Prevention Week with your annual Touch a Truck event, and we'll get to that here a little later on in this conversation. But first of all, what is the reason for the yearly Fire Prevention Week? What are a few things for people to keep in mind to get on the front end and make sure that fires don't start?
So the big thing about Fire Prevention Week is really learning about how to prevent fires. What are the things that we can do on the beforehand, before that fire starts, or before the fire gets out of control, that we can limit that fire damage, limit people from getting hurt, or worse, dying from fires. So this year we're looking at cooking safety. It starts with you. That's our slogan for this year, looking at how to prevent cooking fires. Cooking fires still the #1 reason of home fires in the United States. Now, for the Decorah area, we don't see a lot of those fires. They happen, and we've had them happen, and a lot of times it becomes because people get compliant. They put something on the stove and they walk away. They use the oven as an option for storage of supplies. You know, and then I need to use the oven. I turn the oven on instead of, let's look in the oven before I turn it on, so I'm not creating a fire of whatever I may have stored in there. And then also looking at, as you look at the stovetop and how we're cooking, making sure you have lids, making sure you have things away from the stove that could catch fire. So grease, papers, things that can increase that likelihood, whether you're using electric or you're using gas. Gas, of course, has more flammability because you have an open flame. Where electric, well, that's got a lot of high heat and will start things on fire as well. The induction stove, that's a little different, and those are out there. But still, you can have those start a fire within that pan when you forget that, oh yeah, it's on, and you walk away.
So seemingly, when it comes to preventing cooking fires, it's a lot of things that we can control ourselves. Is that fair to say?
That is very fair to say. I cook a lot outside, so knowing how my gas grill works, having it away from the house, not right next to the house, making sure that the grease trap is all clean, making sure that you take the time on occasion to actually clean the bottom of it. So over time, if you have a flare up, it's not flaring up and then climbing right up to the rest of the outside of the house.
What are some other things to keep in mind, other than what you've mentioned regarding cooking fires that perhaps don't reach the top of our mind on a day in and day out basis?
A lot of our cooking fires, again, come to because of compliancy. I've always done this. I've always put the stove, turn the stove on, then I put the pan on. Well, put the pan on. Make sure you have things in the pan and you're not just heating a bare pan. Understanding that we can get distracted now with our phones or smartphones, or maybe we're using it as our recipe device that, it's going to tell us what to do. But if we don't have all of our cooking supplies readily available, just walking away, turning our back and going to the pantry could be long enough to make that fire start.
And I know even if most people give their best efforts, fires sometimes do happen. And part of dealing with fires is planning escape routes from your home during a fire. What are some things to keep in mind to make sure that if a fire does happen in your home or your business or wherever you are, that you can get out safely?
So the big keys here on how to prevent or how to respond to fires is making sure you have a fire alarm, making sure that fire alarm's on every floor and you're inside of every bedroom. Ideally, they're all tied together. Even today, new fire alarms are coming out that they're actually audible, so they can talk to you. If you're visually or hearing impaired, there are devices out there that address those type of challenges for smoke alarms and fire alarms and such. But knowing that you keep a clear path, all too often, we get into things and we set something down in the hallway, and the next thing you know, it stays there for 2, 3, 4 months. And should that fire alarm go off, and should we have that smoke get all the way down low, now we have all of that to mitigate around to actually get ourselves out. So making sure we have smoke alarms again, making sure they're working. Every smoke alarm that's out there, it also talks about testing it on a weekly basis. Maybe it's a process of you having some short stick that you can raise up, test it, clean it off every month, and then making sure you're changing the batteries every year. At least once a year, change the batteries. And then every 10 years, hey, it's time for some new smoke detectors at that point. I'd rather see us spend $100, $200 on new smoke detectors than have to spend $200,000 on replacing the house. And who knows what else. Somebody gets injured. And again, smoke alarms go off. We need to get out of the house. Let's not worry about where's that fire at. Let's get everybody out of the house. Everybody's, we can't replace people. We can replace things. So it's very important. You create that meeting spot, get it in a safe area. Try not to have it right at the edge of the road where the big fire trucks are. Put it at a tree. Have a known place that you're going to actually evacuate to, and then from there, you can determine, hey, how am I going to summon the fire department? Did I actually grab my phone, or did I have it on me when I walked out? Do I need to go knock on the neighbor's door to wake them up to get them to call the fire department? Again, not being right at the roadway, because our big fire trucks, we can easily miss somebody on a side of the road, especially if they're small kids. So,
and you bring up the new technology when it comes to smoke alarms and the need to replace them probably once every 10 years. Are the smoke alarms getting upgraded to the point where a 10-year-old smoke alarm might not be functional here in a few years?
So a 10-year-old smoke alarm, if you think about our smoke alarms that are out there, there's two different types. There's ionization and there's photoelectric. Photoelectric is actually just shining a light into a mirror and then receiving that light coming back into that eye and determining how much return light is into there. When that gets decreased, then that alarm is going to go off. Where ionization looks at particles. So it's going to be that one that picks up a rapid building, heavy smoke, picks up particles. Well, if you think about it, if I have a old smoke detector, and if you don't dust something for 10 years, there's going to be a pretty good layer of dust on there, right? Mm-hmm. So that's the same thing with that ionization detector. Is over time, it collects those particles. If it has enough particles, it's going to set off. Well, if you don't have that, or if you just leave that be there for 10 years, it may not function at all because it don't have enough room to pull in those particles and have that sensor go off.
And I know one of the events you always hold in conjunction with Fire Prevention Week is the Touch a Truck event, and that is taking place next Saturday. Just to be clear, Fire Prevention Week is actually next week, but this Saturday, October the 7th, you have your annual Touch a Truck event. Tell us about that.
Yes, we have our annual Touch a Truck event. We partner up with the Park and Rec Department of the city of Decorah, and just have an opportunity for the kids to come out, check out the fire trucks, and check out large pieces of equipment. We've had farm equipment, we have city construction equipment, we've had wreckers, we have large dump trucks. So, we're going to have a great time again this year, 11 to 1. We also are adding in this year a fire safety house. So we're going to be able to show how smoke banks down, how you crawl low under smoke. You'll be able to hear a smoke alarm. And so it'll be a nice little fun addition to our Touch Truck event. Again, 11 to 1 this Saturday, October 7th.
Anything else you want to pass on regarding Fire Prevention Week? Anything else you want to pass on from the Decorah Fire Department perspective, as long as you got the forum?
Well, as long as I got the forum, I'm going to pass along that, every day we need to be vigilant about creating safe environments and knowing that our fire equipment is safe and ready to use. So ensuring that you have not only smoke alarms, but you have fire extinguishers, that they've been checked on a monthly basis, especially if you're at a work environment. Those units should be checked on a monthly basis, making sure the gauges are in the green, that nobody's been tampering with it. And, at home, every couple of years, it doesn't hurt to just get rid of the old one, get a new one in there. Get about a 5-pound extinguisher for that kitchen just in case that kitchen fire grows out a little bit more than what you can control with the lid. Maybe you can put it out or dampen it down and get out and stay safe. The other thing is making sure that all of our safety equipment is good and operational. That not only for our fire, but also for our life safety, like defibrillators, any emergency response packs, making sure all of those are up to date and ready to be used should they be needed.
All right, Steve, we appreciate you taking some time to talk about Fire Prevention Week, the Touch Truck event coming up this Saturday. We thank you for the time, and we thank you and everyone at the Decorah Fire Department for what they do to keep our community safe.
Thank you very much.
Steve Vandenbrink from the Decorah Fire Department, Touch Truck event coming up this Saturday. It's the Decorah Fire Department from 11 until 1, adjacent to City Hall. Also, Fire Prevention Week taking place next week. Having a conversation this morning with Tim Cronin. He is the superintendent of schools in the Decorah Community School District, and it looks like you're in your new digs, Tim.
I am, and I need to get, my wife has promised to stop in and help me get artwork and pictures up on the walls, and we haven't accomplished that yet. So it's a little plain looking, but believe me, we're in the new digs and they're working out nicely.
And obviously a lot of things from a news perspective happening this week. You guys started your week with an early Monday morning meeting, and tell us what the board did Monday for those that have been away for a couple of days.
Sure. So Monday morning, the board meeting was a special meeting. We don't usually have them on Monday mornings, but the special meeting met. The board went into closed session. We reviewed a purchase agreement for land, and specifically land that we're going to call the Hively Island. This is the land west of the current John Klein, and it's the land that's owned by the city. And that island kind of comes, it's Hively on the south and Claiborne on the north, and it kind of comes to a point there. So that land, and then our current varsity baseball left field and all of the girls softball field, that is also city-owned property. And so we have been working on a agreement with the city to sell us that land. And that's what we went into closed session just to kind of discuss the finer points. Obviously, we'd had a few closed sessions prior to this, but the board just kind of wanted to review everything. We came out of closed session and agreed to purchase that land for $1.975 million, or $1,975,000 or $75,000. And we're pretty excited about it. This enables us to move forward on planning an elementary school that we could go out and ask for a bond in the November of 2024 election cycle.
There's where it's at from the school district perspective. Where is this process at from the city's perspective in selling that land to you?
Yeah, so the city and the city a week prior had gotten to an agreement to purchase some land, which I think we commonly all call it the Dalen property. It's out by the dog park. And so public entities, that's just board action to purchase land. However, to sell land, that requires a public hearing. And so once the city had this agreement to purchase land, then that set the school district up to be able to, the city, we finalized an agreement where the city would sell the land and we would agree to purchase. And now the city will have, on Monday, last night as well, they set a public hearing, and I believe they set the public hearing for October 16th. And then at that public hearing, the city will go over, hey, we're planning to sell this land. Community has an opportunity to make comments, and then the city council will vote on it. And then it becomes official at that point in time.
Where is the $1.975 million coming from? What portion of the school district budget will be used to purchase this land?
We'll look into a combination of PEPAL and SAVE, whatever makes the most sense for us. We have that as a cash reserve right now, so that's super nice. One of the things that will probably lead us to having it be a PEPAL purchase is there's an opportunity to pass a resolution, and I'm gonna get the wording wrong, but it's like you can pay for it cash now, but you pass a resolution that allows you the opportunity to borrow against that in the future if the district would want more cash for PEPAL and SAVE projects, or PEPAL projects specifically, which are the same as SAVE projects. We could in the future say, oh gosh, we really need a little bit more money to finish the roof at the middle school or something. Although we wouldn't, but we might just pass that resolution as an option to be more flexible with our funds. But and maybe I should back up. PEPAL and SAVE are two funds that the district has that are facilities oriented. We usually think about buildings and buses are the main purchases with that, or vehicles. And so those are funds that can only be used for upkeep and maintenance of your facilities and your vehicle fleet. And which is different than most of our funds are general funds, which goes to just about everything else. But yeah, so this is targeted out of PEPAL at this point in time, but it'll either be PEPAL or SAVE.
And just looking at this entire process, this conversation started when I was single in my 20s, and I'm a married man and an old man now. So maybe this is a little bit from an editorial standpoint, but we're the first to ask you questions and criticize government entities when things don't go well. This is a very good example of things going well when all people have the same goals and the same perspective and want to realize where the end game is, but you got to get a lot of voices involved to make sure it's the right decision. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And it's been brought up a few times that this has been at least a 16-year process, which is maybe a little bit longer than most people would have liked or anticipated.
Yeah.
But I think we should recognize that all the efforts that people have done in the past and conversations, that kind of fed into this and helped us get to this point. Think of it as maybe in the past, it was a really tight jar, and some of those people that did that work helped us loosen the lid a little bit so that it could pop off now. But for sure, so thank you to all those people. I mean, we have not just former school boards and superintendents and city council people, but we've also had community members that have served on shareholders committee and planned and looked at plans and talked about what could be from the school perspective. Absolutely. Coming in, this was a priority for this school board and one of the charges for me. I found working with the city, and again, we have very common interests because the population that attend our school, those are also at night, they're community members. So we feel like this is a win-win for both sides, but helping the city have better youth athletic fields and even adult fields, that's better for the community, which is in turn better for the school district of Decorah. So we recognize that there's a lot of overlap and joint interests that could be served. But yeah, coming in, working with the folks, we had a lot of conversations. Not everything was probably 100% the way the city council wanted it, and it's not 100% the way that the school district of Decorah wanted it. But that doesn't mean that we didn't come up with a very good agreement. And that's part of compromise. So you work together and you kind of keep the focus on this is going to be a win for the Decorah community all the way around. So
now that you have a location ready for a potential new elementary school, and I suppose this can't officially start until October 16th when the council takes their action to sell that land, but beginning that next day, what can you start doing that you haven't had the capability to do when you didn't have a piece of land available as of yet?
Well, I think the big thing will be just planning out the building. It doesn't do you any good. There have been some drawings made, but it's always like, well, if we get this land or if we don't get this land, well, now we know where the land is. So now we need to look at that. And we've already hired Emergent Architecture So we'll be working on a schedule of opportunities to get input on, what we need, what we'd like to see. And so that you go through that planning stage, which is the fun work of this whole process. And I probably, as a caveat, should say, if there's a discussion, just understand that one of the things you often do is get lots of different ideas. And then you kind of funnel those in and you kind of go with the best ones. And I give that as a caveat because in a different project I was involved in Central City, one of the listening sessions, people were just throwing out ideas. We started with, let's replace the wrestling room. And during the idea phase, somebody showed up and said, let's get a AstroTurf football field. Now, mind you, Central City is the same size as Southwind. So that would have been a bit of a stretch for 8-man football. Would have been cool. Would have been very neat, but probably not the way that a small district should use their resources. And it was like a AstroTurf football field and a swimming pool. And it was just one guy's ideas, but I felt like 6 months telling people we're not putting in AstroTurf and we're not doing a pool. And I use that example as, if you hear things, just understand our focus is on a new elementary school, and we'll work on ideas and we're constrained by what we can bond for, which our bonding capacity is $27.8 million. That seems like a lot of money, but as everything right now, that with any luck is going to be able to build us a nice elementary school, but it's not going to be able to build us a lavish Taj Mahal by any stretch of the imagination. But it's the planning stage is the next thing. Once this is finalized with the city, then we can start working with staff and have opportunities for participation and start finalizing what it could look like, and so that we can get a plan, and then we can publicize the plan in the spring and start working on making sure people understand what the vote will look like. And as a reminder, the legislature changed the rules on the voting so that it can only be once a year in the November election. So there's not an opportunity to get it on the ballot next month. So we kind of knew that as the summer waned and we weren't quite ready to have a deal announced, we did know that we'll be going for this in November of 2024.
Other than the planning itself, what other preparations does the district have to do to prepare for that potential November 2024 vote?
Well, I think the planning, you create the vision and the planning, make sure you have a lot of education process. We're going to engage the Donovan group to help us with that at the next board meeting. And then you're kind of working on the education part of making sure the community knows what the ramifications are to, taxes and the opportunities for students and why we need it. And so you kind of make sure that message is consistently gets out to people, and that they're, if people say, well, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? Then we can make sure we have answers to that, but you're also promoting like, what's this going to do for the children of Decorah and the community in general?
And you mentioned November 2024 is the probable date for this. You mentioned the bonding capacity. Will this be a project that's totally financed through that bonding, or will you have to put some save and pebble dollars towards this project as well?
Well, saving that, it's like that's a very good question, Darren. Thank you for that.
It isn't my first rodeo when it comes to facilities here in Decorah.
All right. Okay. Yeah. So understanding what our bonding capacity is, it'd be my thought, and of course, at the discretion of the board, that we would go through and make a plan for what we can afford to borrow against. We do have the ability. There is some pebble and save dollars that will always be available to us, and so that we can kind of keep that in rears if needed. I just until I see a plan and know how much it's going to cost, it's hard for me to say, and that's why you need to start the process with, okay, traditionally you start these and you say, what do you need, and you get a plan, and then you're like, how much is it going to cost, and then you say, okay, so that's the perfect school and it's going to cost $35 million. So let's make this fiscally work for a budget and see what we can do that way. So until we get to that point, I can't tell you if we're going to use PEPL or save reserves, but that would be a possibility.
And is there a deadline by, shall we say, next spring where you have to officially call for this election?
I think we've got until September of September of 2024. And so, what you'll see is you'll have all the plans and the information will be out on social media, and you might see us not file the paperwork until September 1st, but we'll have been talking about it for months. And so I kind of paid a little bit more attention to that process this election cycle, and that's pretty traditional fare for school districts, because the matter of filing paperwork to get on the ballot is once the board has approved it, then you get it to the local election officials and it'll go on there. So
on this facility end of things, anything we're missing, anything we haven't covered that can be covered at this point?
No, I think we'll start like I say, you won't see plans for a school tomorrow, but understand that we don't want to rush into it. So we'll start working on those plans, and that'll start to evolve over the winter of 23-24. This is a much longer time frame than we anticipated, because we really were hoping to be on the ballot this November, but that's not the worst thing in the world to have more time. So I think at this point in time, we kind of put in our press release. We're working on plans for where tennis court. We kind of know where softball is going to end up, and so now our plan is to make sure that finalize some ideas on where tennis courts might be. So potentially that could be announced in the next month or so, and we'll come up with plans for a new elementary school.
Non-related to the facility issue, anything you want to pass along to district patrons as long as we're having this conversation?
I think probably the one thing I thought about today as I was driving by, John Klein, actually talked to a couple of John Klein staff yesterday, is there's been a lot of deferred maintenance, a lot of stuff that we should have done that we always just kind of thought, well, we're going to get a new bond issue, so why would we do that? And so we'll probably highlight that, as kind of you understand, this is why we're looking to build a new elementary school, because we have roof issues and window issues, and we're arguing out the sewer, unfortunately 2 times in the last month. So if we start publicizing more of all the fixes at John Klein, just understand that we've always been doing those things, and some of it, you wouldn't want to put good money into a bad building, and that's what we've been trying to avoid. But if it feels like you're hearing more of that, maybe now that we see a plan coming, we'll make sure people understand that there's a lot that we're doing to keep that building going, and it's not our nicest building. I'll just say that.
So it's kind of like the old Fram oil filter ad. You can pay a little now or a lot later. That
would be a nice spin on it. Sure.
All right, Tim, we appreciate you taking some time. I appreciate your new digs, and I'll appreciate them even more when your wife decorates them when we have another conversation next month. Thanks for the time as always, and look forward to our next chat, approximately 30 days or so.
Sounds very good.
Tim Cronin, Decorah School Superintendent. Hey, thank you to our guest on the program this morning. We want to thank Jana Elton from UFTA Fest coming up this weekend in Spring Grove. UFTAFest.com, the place you need to go for all of the information related to UFTA Fest. Also, David Burrett from the Decorah Police Department talking about October being Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Next week is Fire Prevention Week. Steve Vandenbrink chatted with us about that event. And don't forget the Touch a Truck event coming up at Decorah Parks, the combined effort from the Decorah Parks and Recreation Department and the Decorah Fire Department. That is Saturday from 11 to 1. And we want to thank Decorah School Superintendent Tim Cronin for joining us as well. Don't forget, we put these shows on YouTube each and every week. You can watch Our Town. We realize you can't always be near a radio or near a smart speaker at 9 o'clock on a Thursday morning, but we get to talk to interesting people. And because of that, we want to bring it to you on your schedule. Go to 10-5 Our Town on, if you're out searching on YouTube. That's a great place to get it. We also put the links up on all of our LA Communication radio station Facebook pages as well. A thank you to our guest, a thank you to our sponsor, Decorah Bank and Trust, and most importantly, we thank you, that's right, you, for tuning in, for logging on, or for watching Our Town on 94.9 and 99.1 The River.